Hi, welcome to the next section of the video series. This is called Team Development, and this particular video is on team selection. It is very important to be able to look at a team and select a team, and I am by no means an expert in this process, but from what I've gathered from my resources, I will give you some key information on how to select an appropriate team. There was an article by Lencioni called Ideal Team Players, and this is the kind of team player that you should look for to add to your team. It's real basic, but it's looking for a team member that is smart, hungry, and humble. Being smart means that they're intelligent and they're skillful in whatever area they're in. So it might not just be book smart, it could also be just skilled. So being smart. Being humble means that they're also willing to be open to new ideas, that they're willing to admit that they don't know everything, so they're relatively fair. And being hungry means that they're eager to learn, eager to achieve, and eager to pursue group goals. So smart, humble, and hungry is the ideal team player. And I think this is the perfect person that you should pursue to add to your team. If you've got somebody that's not motivated, it's going to be difficult to get them on the team and then get them motivated for task completion. It can be done, but it will be more challenging. The other thing to remember when you're building that team is to create a balance. So don't just go for people that are skilled in tasks. If you've got everybody that's just good at bookkeeping or data collection, then you will be a little bit limited in what you can do. So balancing out people that are good at tasks and people that are good with the people skills will actually make your team relatively balanced. You don't want a team that's going to be all task driven if you know they're going to fight most of the time because they're not going to know how to deal with each other. So look for that balance, not just in the task development, but also in the people skills too. Stick with small teams. Teams that get to be too large have a tendency to lose some team member input in the process. And when you lose team member input, then you lose ideas and creativity limitations. So Jeff Bezos actually has a rule, which I absolutely loved. He's Amazon CEO. He's the one that created the 2 pizza rule. And he had said that if you have a team or you're having a meeting in general that is too large, that 2 pizzas can't feed, then you're probably stretching beyond your limitations. So the ideal team is usually between 5 to 8 team members, and it's usually a really good size. So this allows a small enough group of people that the ideas can be shared, that they can be heard. If you go back to one of the earlier videos where I talked about the MBTI types, there are introverted types and extroverted types. And the extroverted types are really outgoing and they love to speak and they get their energy from people. And so they're the ones that tend to override a lot of the meetings and have no problem speaking up. Whereas the introverted types are a little bit quieter and may not speak up during meetings. So in those big groups, they're going to be the quiet ones. Whereas the extroverted types, they're going to be the ones that aren't afraid to speak up. So think about that when you're creating a big team, to not create such a big team. Keep it small. 5 to 8 team members should be perfect. The last thing is how balance a team. Create a team that actually is balanced based off how they're inclined to act. So you can use a few different models that I've already talked about and one that I'll talk about in the future to think about the team formation. You could work on MBTI types, personality types to try to balance out the team. You don't want everybody that's extroverted to be on one team. You want some introverted types. You don't want everybody to be a judging type. You want some perceiving types. You want some intuitive types, and you want some thinking types and feely types and all that stuff. So try to go for balance. You can use the conflict mode. When people don't agree, how they revert back to how they deal with conflict. That's actually another way that you can go for. So you can balance out the conflict preferences. You can balance out the personality types, or you can just scratch those 2 models all together and just kind of go with how they incline to act. So what's their outlook? What are their tasks? What drives them? What are their goals? Are they financially driven? Are they people driven? Are they value driven? What kind of work ethics do they have? What kind of decision making preferences do they have? So you can use little loose skills like that or loose goals like that to balance out your team. So there's other ways to do it besides the 2 main models that I mentioned. Just remember this: small group sizes, stick with balance between task and people skills, and then think about how they're going to act, what their tendency towards are going to act. And that diversity matters. You don't want your group to be thinking alike. If they all thought alike, then there'd be no point to have a group, because you guys would just all agree and go with it. So you want some conflict. You want people to question the thoughts that come up. You want people to be able to be creative and bring up other ideas that you hadn't thought about. So you want to avoid that groupthink problem. So go for diversity. It's a little bit more fun anyways, to have people think differently than you, to be challenged and to be challenged in that way. So selection's incredibly important. So work on that when you're working on your team development. There's a lot of good resources out there. HBR actually talks about it, which is one of my favorite book resources. I'll put the information down low, and then I will get on the next video for team development. Thanks, guys.